So what do we got?
This is a letter himself.
That's really cool. Where'd you get this?
Online, told by my wife that I had a bit of a...
I can see that.
It takes a lot of courage to purchase an antique, such as a letter signed by Napoleon, from an online merchant. The chances of the piece being genuine are so slim. But today, in the shop, there might be an authentic letter signed by Napoleon himself lying in front of Cory. Can this letter with its co-A fetch the shop a good amount of money?
Remember, this guy was the emperor of pretty much Europe, which would mean he probably signed a lot.
How about 5?
You're gonna have to come a lot lower than that, man. I can't. I'm gonna have to get this reframed.
Oh wow, straight to the bargain, with little or no chit-chat about the history of the letter. It's a day of straight business in the shop today. Cory has taken the hard turn of slashing the price from 10 grand to 2 grand. That's a steep cut. For a piece of this nature, the market value should be something that breaks the bank, if it's authentic.
I didn't pay that much for it, so let's do it. 2,000.
All right, sweet, man. I'll meet you right over there.
Thank you. I was a little disappointed when I said 10,000. This is a fine piece of history.
Finally, 2 grand for this letter. That's an easy purchase for Cory. The seller has agreed to Cory's offer, considering that he did not originally acquire the letter at such a high price. It appears to be a win-win situation for both the seller and Cory. However, this outcome will only be really advantageous if the verification process confirms the authenticity of the letter. Let's see how that goes.
With certificate of authenticity.
The Napoleon?
Yep.
That's freaking sweet.
And his seal. I mean, you just don't see that. You just bought it?
Yeah.
What'd you pay for it, Cory?
2 grand. Me winning that money today really...
Elated by the success of his purchase, Cory brings his Napoleon treasure to show Rick. Rick immediately recognizes that this is an exceptional piece, one that could potentially earn the shop a significant profit. However, such value is dependent upon the letter's authenticity. Although the letter arrived sealed and accompanied by a certificate of authenticity, COA, the possibility remains that it could still be a forgery.
One for 12 grand and not know for sure. So why don't you go down and see Greg at UNLV, see what he has to say.
COA, guys, is it that big of a deal?
Seen phony COAs before.
Fine.
Rick speculates that the shop could potentially sell the piece for approximately $12,000, a highly profitable return. A letter acquired for just 2 grand now stands to be sold for 6 times that amount, highlighting its perceived value. However, such a high price tag depends entirely on the letter's authenticity. With that in mind, there is hope that this particular piece proves to be genuinely legitimate.
By Napoleon.
Well, let's take a look at what we've got. I'm a professor of history at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and I specialize in the European. It's dated the 12th of Frimaire, the year 14. And that's a very important date in the history of Napoleon.
Hopefully, the meeting with the professor of history will yield a positive outcome for Cory and the shop. Acquiring a historical piece and learning about the history it carries gives the piece more intimate value to the owner. The piece will be perceived as history, rather than as a mere physical object. This aspect of pawning historical pieces is where the connection is built. According to the professor, this particular letter carries such a feature.
Made on the battlefield because Napoleon dictated it to his secretaries, and they would have written it down in manuscript, and he would have sent these off to try and explain to people what had happened. So if you've got one of the original copies that would have been written out.
The words of the professor are sounding very encouraging so far, but the encouragement still pivots on the genuineness of the letter. Laying hands on one of the real letters written on the battlefield will be priceless. Cory seems to know this. In fact, it must have been his main reason for buying the letter. Surely Cory has his fingers crossed.
This is not one of those original manuscript copies.
Ooh.
We consider to be the original, which looks exactly like this military museum just outside of Paris. So what we've got here is very clearly a very important document.
Ouch! The professor has just invalidated the piece. It is a replica and not one of the original copies. Cory has made a very unfortunate purchase. He has, in effect, gambled away his 2 grand. How will Rick take this? The shop is built on a solid reputation, one that must be upheld at all costs. Validating the letter has proven that it would have been a serious mistake to sell it based solely on its presentation and accompanying certificate of authenticity, COA.
Handwritten ink document from this period, we would see evidence that somebody had written pen. We would see where there are blobs of ink, and we'd see that the ink would have faded in color.
It's a good thing to learn from one's mistakes in order to avoid future recurrence. The professor pointed out several features of the writing in the letter, and these do not align with authentic handwritten ink strokes. This will educate Cory about the subtle indicators to watch for when acquiring similar pieces. It also benefits the shop as a whole, as it helps minimize the risk of financial loss from investing in inauthentic items.
Trying to sell it for 20 bucks.
About all it's worth. The COA fooled me.
You paid $2,000 for it.
That's a big loss, Cory.
Yeah, it is.
I'm selling it for 20 bucks. We don't sell fake stuff here.
Trying to sell this fake piece for 20 bucks in the pawn shop is a definite no-no for Rick. He makes it very clear to Cory that he must exercise greater diligence in future transactions or risk causing significant financial loss to the shop. Rick also emphasizes that Cory is responsible for repaying the $2,000 lost on the piece. Hopefully, Cory will not fall victim to such a mistake again going forward.
You're not putting it on the wall and selling it for 20 bucks. We don't sell fake stuff here. Sometimes Cory's ego gets the best of him, but it's a lesson he's gonna have to learn. Take the blow and move on. And while you're at it, give me my $2,000 back.
I have my uncle's comic book passed away, and this was handed.
They're all comic books?
All comic books.
This is pretty cool. Is there anything good in here?
I have no idea.
There are 7 boxes of comic books in the shop today. This must be 7 treasure chests. Can the treasurers in these chests fetch this shop a good amount of money? Although the owner inherited half of her uncle's comic collections, could she have inherited a fortune? Hopefully, these books are genuine, and Chum does not have to live with the regrets of a bad buy.
Also, you're gonna take 7 boxes of comic books and sell them. I'm hoping that they're really valuable, but I don't have the time. If I sell the comic books, I'm probably gonna spend the money.
Pretty cool stuff in here. Dracula, I know you've heard of Dracula.
Comic books have been known to hold an enormous amount of value at auctions. Selling a comic book as high as $3.2 million is a mouth-watering venture. This is enough to make Chum willingly invest some of the shop's money on this collection. While this might bring a lot of money to the shop, Chum has to be very careful with this deal. This is because the pivot of pawning items still depends on its genuineness.
I know you've heard of Dracula, Lord of the Vamp. The Avengers are so hot right now, they have so many. Pretty cool.
Looks like a bunch of paper to me.
Hey, bro, have you ever heard of Doctor Strange?
No, but I'm looking at Strange.
This collection has some cool superhero books in it. If they are truly authentic, then these boxes should be able to replicate a similar sale price of $3.2 million. Although it might not be that high, it should fetch something that should be worthwhile for the shop. However, Chum seems to be overly optimistic about this. Hopefully, his guys don't fail him, but instead, they help him make the best buy with these.
Knows what they're talking about.
Dude, I don't need Paul. These are comic.
He's a comic book expert.
I may not know everything about quarter and 75 cents per book, which means I can date them back to the.
Chum seems to be sure about this collection. The collection looks good to him, so validating them for him isn't his move. He sure is willing to take a big risk on this. But this pawn shop is known for its integrity and sales of genuine items. Will this sit well with Rick? Hopefully it does. So far, the comic books are genuine. Chum has ranked it on the bronze standard, so some good money could be made for the shop.
Get $2,000.
Well, I can tell you that even if there's $2,000, it's gonna take a lot of time. All these boxes, I'm gonna have to find.
Nice. It's time for bargaining, and Chim isn't doing so bad with this. The owner is demanding a whooping $2,000 for this collection. Is it really worth that amount? That sounds like an expensive gamble for Chum, but he is willing to drop $450 for it. If she takes it, it's a good bargain for him. But will these books be worth 1 cent of the shop's money?
I'm gonna show everyone what an expert I really am.
Stuff in here.
Meet you right over there to write it up.
Thank you. Taking the $500 because I don't want to carry the comic.
This is how you do it, Antoine. This is how you make a name for yourself.
Chum just settled for $500. That's a pricey gamble. He is taking these boxes based on his personal ambition to impress everyone in the shop. That's way beyond the ethics of the business. Will Rick take it as this? Even if the books are authentic and draws a lot of money for the shop, hopefully Chum gets his trophy.
$500.
When did you become an expert on comic books?
Worked at the pawn shop for almost 15 years.
Just do me a favor and call someone who knows something about comic books and find out if I just lost money.
Yeah.
Rick steps up to the counter and boom, he has set Chum straight. Verify the books and check if they are authentic. All Rick demands is that his employees play according to the rule books. This would eventually mean that they do not spend a dime on a fake item. That will not be beneficial to the shop in any way. Chum now has to go with Paul's advice. Hopefully, Chum was right on this $500 purchase.
Some really cool stuff.
Yeah, duh.
Master, First Nova, Red Hulk. Some good stuff. There's Doctor Strange in there.
Good.
All right, the big question, what are they worth?
Paul has just put Chum's dreams in a bag. It looks like he will be getting his appraisal after all. The majority of the books are not worth what he thought they would. Rick is absolutely fuming. To him, his boys are not learning the dynamics of this trade. This is another bad buy for the shop. Hopefully, Chum has learnt from this mistake and does not fall for it again in the future.
I'm not good at math, but it seems like it's more than 500.
So you spent 500 books. I'll be lucky to get like 180 boxes of the recyclable paper. So they're basically worthless.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Is that what I think it is?
Yeah, it definitely is. Not a flamethrower.
Let's check it out.
Check it out.
Flamethrower.
Yeah.
How long have you had it for?
Oh, look at that. They've got jokes. The Not-A-Flamethrower is essentially a propane torch styled like a pistol, with a 14-ounce propane canister attached via a gas grill fitting and hose to a plastic-bodied chassis looking like tactical gear. Despite its name, it projects a flame no more than 10 feet, legally classifying it as a torch rather than a true flamethrower.
Oh, I think it is a flamethrower. How long have you had it for?
Just for about 2 months.
Okay.
But my girlfriend doesn't want the
Coolest thing is. So how much are you looking to get?
I'm gonna get $2,400.
This weird-sounding thing is actually a real thing. If this one happens to be authentic, that is. Elon Musk first teased the idea on Twitter after selling 50,000 Boring Company hats, promising a flamethrower as the next merch drop, a joke that quickly became reality when he launched pre-orders on January 27, 2018. God only knows how much these things cost.
So how much are you looking to get for it?
I'm gonna get $2,400.
Would you 500 for it?
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay.
I'm thinking 1,800.
I could do it with that.
Whoa. Originally, all 20,000 units sold out within days at $500 each, netting roughly $10 million for the startup without diluting equity or taking on debt. By February 1st, 2018, the entire run was claimed, making it one of the fastest-moving novelty hardware launches in recent memory. However, now that this is currently a limited product, the price is bound to increase depending on how it is acquired.
Happy that I bought the Elon Musk, but I want to have a lot of fun. I don't care if I open it.
What in the hell are you? And what is that?
Not a flamethrower from Elon Musk.
Well, all right then. Whatever makes you happy, chum. Because it's a regulated propane torch, the Not-A-Flamethrower is legal in every U.S. state except Maryland, where specific flamethrower bans apply. As an additional fun fact, the Boring Company also sold an optional fire extinguisher for $30. Sure, it's overpriced, but it came with a cool sticker to address safety and regulatory concerns.
Yeah, it shoots flames.
That would make it a flamethrower. First, where did it?
I bought it. It came in the shop.
How much did you pay for it?
$1,400. Who knows? Who dope?
Good question, Rick. Elon Musk's Not-A-Flamethrower currently trades hands on the secondary market for roughly $1,000 to $1,500 for most new in-box units, though rarer or low serial number examples can fetch $2,000 to over $3,000. Prices vary widely based on condition, completeness, which includes an original box, $5 bill, fire extinguisher, and seller reputation, with occasional outliers exceeding $3,400 on eBay.
Musk's company, the Boring Company, marketing ploy. This year, they did out of flamethrowers. They sold 20, and they made $10 million 4 days.
You've got that right. Collectors seeking low serial number or complete sets, which includes the $5 novelty bill and branded fire extinguisher, may pay $2,000 to $3,000, with some listings pushing close to $3,000. A notable used example, such as the number 14,338 that had been fired 3 times, sold for $3,420.69. Can you imagine that? Now, it's time to determine how much Chum's flamethrower is worth.
These are just...
All right, so what do you think it's worth?
Pretty cheap for it, I think.
What'd you pay?
$1,400.
These tend to go, if they're from without the box, from like $800 to like one like this.
Would you look at that? Thinking he'd scored a jaw-dropping Vegas coup, Chumlee shelled out $1,400 for Elon Musk's tongue-in-cheek propane torch, the Not-A-Flamethrower. Even though it originally retailed for only $500 and all 20,000 units sold out in the blink of an eye. What a jaw-dropping loss. Today, secondary market listings for brand new sealed-in-box units typically hover around $1,200 to $1,450. Sucks to be you, chum.
You gonna give me my $1,400?
Well, if it works, I'll give you $1,200.
You paid $1,400.
No, you paid offering $1,200 if it works.
I do want to see.
And you do.
Now, Chumlee has realized that he just made a massive loss. He's willing to keep the flamethrower just because he thinks it's cool. Also, he probably knows that Rick is going to skin him alive if he does not pay for it. It's absolutely wild that this young man willingly overpaid a customer for a flamethrower without doing his own research first.
If it works, and I'll deal with that.
Now it's ready to go. Just pull the trigger, yep.
Like your hot dog, Rick.
Oh, that's good. It's actually working.
Oh, would you look at that? Look at that baby burn. It's basically a propane torch hidden inside a plastic rifle-style chassis, so it looks way cooler than your average blowtorch. It spits flames of about 6 to 10 feet, which is why it's legally a torch and not a real flamethrower. In other words, it's a glorified torch with a sci-fi flair and a surprisingly hot collector's market.
It's fine.
Good.
Are you still gonna buy this?
$1,000.
You paid $1,400.
No, you paid $1,400.
I'm just gonna take $1,200 out of your paycheck. I'm going back to work. Pack this thing up, bring it back to work. I don't know why I put up with it. I really don't.
I have a book signed by Shoeless Joe Jackson.
It's actually signed by him.
Right.
This is absolutely incredible. Baseball players you would have talked about, Joe Jackson and Babe Ruth.
Shoeless Joe Jackson debuted in Major League Baseball with the Philadelphia Athletics in August 1908 and went on to compile a .356 career batting average, the fourth highest in Major League Baseball's history, while playing for the Cleveland Josh Indians and finishing with the Chicago White Sox in 1920. Shoeless Joe remained an illiterate all his life, so most times, his wife often signed his name.
7 other guys on the 1919 Chicago Whites money to fix the World Series. They were all acquitted in a court of law. Okay, they were not found guilty in a court of law, but the whole incident more or less is based.
That sounds crazy, and it's absolutely true too. Jackson led both teams in hits during the 1919 World Series, setting a record with 12 base hits, but was swept up in the Black Sox scandal. 8 White Sox players were accused of conspiring to throw the series for gamblers. In spite of his amazing performance in that series, Jackson was banned from professional baseball for life after the 1920 season.
There was no doubt that he would make it to the Hall. So you got the signature certified.
Right. When I found the book, I saw them very legible and different than the first one, so.
Well, he was illiterate. He could not read, and
That's right, Joseph Jefferson, Shoeless Joe. Jackson was born on July 16, 1887 in Pickens County, South Carolina. By age 6, he was already working long hours in a cotton mill. This upbringing instilled both his work ethic and lifelong illiteracy, which later made authentic Jackson signatures exceptionally scarce. This man basically worked too much as a child that he simply couldn't afford to go to school.
he was embarrassed how bad his handwriting was on his, so that's why you never saw it.
Okay. So this could really be an amazing signature.
You will not find a rare autograph. Normally, I wouldn't go near a book like this.
Oh, Rick, don't do it, man. Rick knows that the #1 rule in a pawn shop is to always ask for expert opinion. It's basically Pawn Shop 101, to never trust the customer. However, right now, he is super excited and decides to simply go with it. This decision could cost him some good money. How do you suddenly decide to buy something super risky like a signature without verification?
Quick search on his signature, and there's not many of them. I'd like to get like $30,000 for the book.
Not gonna happen.
Okay. What is gonna happen?
Wow, that high? Oh well, collectors and experts once thought only about 4 dozen genuine examples survived, most held privately or by the Shoeless Joe Jackson Museum in Greenville, SC. In fact, authentication specialists now estimate that only around 12 fully authenticated Joe Jackson signatures remain, making any newly discovered example a sensational find.
I mean, I'll take a shot at 10 grand.
It's just not a signature. It's on a book about the dark side of sports. It has to bring something to the table.
I'll give you 11. I'll make it short and sweet. Penny more, for $1 more, you can just pick the book up and leave.
Wow, Rick, what a bargain. So, Rick stated that he has absolutely no idea who the person is that signed the authenticity agreement. So, how come you're willing to take such a big risk for it? That's insane. Authentication demands rigorous provenance checks, forensic ink and paper analysis, and side-by-side comparison with known genuine examples. So, what's going on with you, Rick?
Penny more, for $1 more, you can just pick the book up and leave. You do that, I'll do it. So,
Well, okay, let's do it.
all right, deal, man.
Great.
Okay, I'll meet you right up front. We'll do some paperwork.
Okay.
Of course he's going to do it. Usually $13,000 would be a meager change compared to what it should be worth. However, we all know this one's not authentic. 1/1911. Frank W. Smith's photograph signed by Jackson was sold for $1.47 million at auction in October 2021. It set a record as the most ever paid for a sports photograph. That sounds like an unbelievable amount of money.
All right, deal, man.
Great.
Okay, I'll meet you right up front. We'll do some paperwork.
Okay.
13 grand is a lot of money, but a once-in-a-lifetime piece like this, I think it's definitely worth the gamble. I have a customer in the store, and he says, painted by Rene Magritte. This thing actually might be my art guy. I have him take a look, and fingers crossed.
Once more on Pawn Stars, we have an art piece that causes Rick and his team to lose a lot of money. This time, this piece is apparently by Rene Magritte. Magritte is known for thought-provoking imagery. His work is also known to influence everything from record label branding to television logos, and continues to be celebrated in major exhibitions around the world.
Like, very weird. He's from Belgium. He went to Paris. You know, it's the 20s in the Paris, up with Picasso. He's not doing very well at all. Knocks off
Forgeries.
All right, forgery.
Isn't that something? Strangely enough, he's right. Eventually, in the lean post-war years, 1947 up until about 1948, facing economic hardship, Magritte, alongside his brother Paul and friend Marcel Marianne, deliberately forged paintings by Picasso, as well as Braque and de Chirico. Additionally, he also counterfeit 100 franc notes, selling them on the art market to stay afloat.
Looks very good. This is a very early painting. You can tell damage that's on it. Very typical of that time. Painting style is very, very... The signature is perfect. Risk. Forgers aren't stupid.
That sounds about right. The complex nature of genuine smoke residues, with varying types of soot and organic byproducts trapped in aged varnish, is pretty impossible for modern forgers to replicate convincingly. This painting is basically screaming Magritte. It's got all the definitive features, from a deadpan illustrative technique to bold outlines.
So what do you think?
My opinion means nothing. The opinion that matters is in Belgium. You have to take it unframed to Belgium, have to get the authentication.
This is such a risky sale. In response to growing market demand and the need for an authoritative body, the Foundation Rene Magritte formalized an authentication committee in 2000. This exists to provide binding opinions on whether works attributed to Magritte are genuine. Owners must submit cataloging details along with a review fee of 700 euros, which covers administrative costs and expert honoraria.
One state of being, it's worth nothing. The other state of being, this is a $700,000–800,000 painting. But the market is moving very, very quickly. $1,000 20 years ago is worth $3.8 million.
Phew, that's a whole lot of money. Also, at the same time, that could amount to nothing if things go south. Now, it's all left to Rick. Let's find out if he is going to buy the painting for a price or let it go. Here's a spoiler alert. Rick loses a lot of money alongside his own precious time. Acquiring art like this is a good choice too, since the price in the market would almost always appreciate. However, is the painting real?
Or I will spend all my money, take it to Belgium, I'll do everything. If it turns out it's real, I'll give you 400 grand.
It's a really tough choice.
I'm straight up gambling here, and if
Whoa, wait a second. That happened so fast. It seems like Rick has a whole lot of faith in this painting. He is willing to bear all the risk, knowing at the back of his mind that it just might be fake. To further justify all our doubt, the customer decided to take all that money too fast, if you ask me. I mean, if the painting he is bringing to the table is authentic, he would have no problem waiting to collect $400,000 compared to $10,000.
the Greek committee, they've come up with this. They've told me I can come and pick it up, saying whether it's real or fake. Go down in the annals of pawn shop as the best buy ever. I'm gonna walk in there, and they're gonna tell me my painting is.
Now, the painting has been shipped to Belgium. It's all in the hands of the committee to predict if Rick made one hell of a sale or one mind-blowing loss. Did they just snag the deal of the century, or did they hand over thousands for a perfectly painted paperweight? Right now, authenticity is what makes the difference between a champagne toast and shell-shocked regret.
What do you mean you don't know? Stuck a clerk in there, and I showed him my ID. They handed me this, handed me the letter. I'm gonna go sit down and read this letter. The business I'm in, about somebody finding something amazing in there.
Oh my goodness, would you look at that? According to Artsy, when the committee deems a work inauthentic, owners are typically informed and the piece is returned unmarked. No certificate, no labels, just the silent verdict that it fails to bear Magritte's legacy. That's exactly what's happening to Rick right now. He came all the way to Belgium with high hopes, for a painting worth nothing that he paid $10,000 for.
It's not real.
Well, I had my doubts, Rick. Would you like me to point them out to you?
Not funny. But it's been a great ride and
Fun trip out here in Belgium.